Wunderschönen guten Abend, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Nice to have you here in the Austrian capital of Vienna in this beautiful place, the Odeon Theater. Lots of performances have been played here on stage tonight. We are going to be a little more technical. We are going to talk about crypto art, NFTs, music with NFTs. When I was asked to anchor this evening, to present it, I heard about NFT, meaning that I more or less knew what acronym that was. That's it, nothing more. So I was and am very excited to have the possibility tonight to share with you the information that we will get from our guests. So I say hello to all of you who are here in the Odeon Theater. I say hello to all those who are watching us. We're streaming live. This is why I say hello to the async community on Twitter. Now, this is going to be a groundbreaking event. We're going to have a lot of information concerning cryptos, concerning async. You're going to learn about how this type of art, of NFT art, is going to be created. We have wonderful guests, very interesting guests, that are going to explain to us, and I've been talking to them right before the evening, and they do that in a very fine and clear way, what is all this about NFTs. Now, for all of those who already know it, it's going to be very interesting, especially the second part, because we're going to have a live performance of musicians that are going to play the music that we will put into an NFT. And for those who don't or ever heard about NFTs, you probably will know after this evening. I assure you that. But before we start introducing our guests, let me say a big thank you to the Austrian Chamber of Commerce, the Österreichische Wirtschaftskammer, who tonight has two representatives here just to say hello and to show the importance of this subject. So please welcome on stage Ms. Reanne Leuning and Günther Schabhüttel. Reanne and Günther, welcome to our event tonight here in the Odeon. Some words to say.
Thank you very much. A very warm welcome also from our side. It's really nice that you are here with us this evening. I see so many familiar but also unfamiliar faces. And we are also very excited to see what is going on in the NFT space and to get information about the chances and opportunities we will have now and in the near future. But first, let me also introduce my colleague Günther Schabhüttel, who is heading our innovation department at Advantage Austria, which is the Austrian export and innovation organization. Welcome, Günther.
Thank you very much, Reanne. Yeah, Reanne is the head of the creative section of the Außenwirtschaft. She did projects all over the world, incredible projects from Milan to New York and on all the continents. So she does an incredible job in our organization. We are very happy to be here with you tonight to co-host this very special event. I'm with you to a certain extent when it comes to NFT and the knowledge I have about it. So I'm really looking forward to what will happen in the next hour or so. And yeah, we will get, as you said, insights in the information about blockchain and the NFTs, and we are really looking forward to it.
And it's actually an interesting story why we are here, because it's just a few weeks ago that we met Francisco Supin, who is one of the founders and initiators of MozartBeats, to talk about a totally different subject. But then this idea came up and he made us very enthusiastic about it. So we are really happy to be here this evening.
Yeah, and I can add to that I met one of the speakers of this evening, Daniel, in Bucharest 3 or 4 weeks ago, of all places. And so, yeah, it's always great when you see when things come together and put together and when we connect the dots.
Yeah, and we don't want to take too much of your time, but we just also wanted to remind you that whenever you are already active in export or are planning to export your products and services, please come and talk with us, because we have a very broad network of offices around the world, and we offer financial support, we organize events, we offer tailor-made consulting and a lot of services. So please feel free to contact us at any time.
That's right, and only one last word. It's our aim is to bring the best of Austrian innovation into the world, into the global markets, and at the same time we want to explore and identify new trends from all over the world and bring it to Austria. Thank
Wonderful.
you very much.
Rian Leuning and Günther Schabüttel from the Austrian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this evening with us. Now, I was a little bit nervous before the evening because I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to, host an evening about something I don't know anything about. And you know how it is with the technical things. You just think you said a sentence that makes sense, and people are just shaking, or no, that's not correct, because you don't really know what you're talking about. So this is actually something I tried to understand, and I'm trying, and I will learn with you together. We will go deep into details, and our guests will explain to us. But I am very cool right now because I see my experts here sitting in the front row. They will be part of the first part as guests. So when I don't know exactly something, I know I can look down to you guys, and you're doing this or this. For now, you're doing this. Thank you very much. So we saw right before, I think, was this a CryptoPunk? The image of Mozart, this one. Is this a CryptoPunk? No, what's the correct name of that? It's inspired by CryptoPunk. Okay, because there is actually a story. I'm an opera singer, and I have a very good friend who's a singer with me here in Vienna, and we were talking, and he said, did you ever hear about NFT CryptoPunks? And I said, yeah, like kind of. And he explained to me that the son of a friend of him they stole his laptop on the train. He's somebody who's working in, the IT industry, so not having his laptop was quite a tragedy. So he had to go back home, and he had to take an older Mac device he had not been using for a lot of time, which you tell me is a few years. And he opened it, and guess what he found on that old laptop? Some of those CryptoPunks. My friend told me this story because he said this guy just bought his mother a Porsche. And so he sold this CryptoPunks for a 2-digit million amount. And now, doesn't have to work probably for the rest of his life. And I got quite interested in how that is possible and why. And this is something we had a little discussion right before this afternoon. Why would someone pay something like this, and how is this created? So this is definitely something that you will learn tonight and makes tonight's evening very interesting. We will discuss about the latest technological trends, focusing on tonight's topic that is really revolutionizing the art industry, because it's about art that we're going to discuss tonight. Now you have to imagine the total sales revenue just for the first half of 2021. Just the first half of 2021, the total sales revenue amounts to $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. Some of those are the CryptoPunks the friend of my friend sold, obviously. So this is just to give you an idea of how much money is involved, how much interest, and how all this technology is going to develop. This is definitely worth to, dig a little bit deeper, to have a look behind the scenes. How does it work? To understand, because probably this is going to evolve, and we've been discussing this before, faster than the internet when it arrived in our society. Now, tonight's motto, this is important. Our night is divided in two parts. In the first part, we're going to have our guests on stage that are going to explain to us what is NFT, how does it connect to arts, etc. And in the second part, and this is really historical, we will have a live performance. You see the chairs here to my right-hand side. We will have a string quartet playing for us and showing you live how NFT art is created. And this is really a first time that we do that live, and we're very happy that we're streaming that online. So the second part is under the motto Game Changer Crypto Art. We've been talking about this. We will show the NFT project being created by MozartBeats, which is the first classical music NFT made in Vienna. So here we are in the Austrian capital, and it's definitely the capital of music. I know a lot of people of you are professionally in the music industry, so you know how important music is for this city. We will have a live audiovisual concert of programmable music that will be performed by our string players. Now, who are our guests? We will be introducing shortly experts. First of all, an expert from the Research Institute for Crypto Economics. There is just one research institute that just takes care of the crypto economics. You probably be hearing the word cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, maybe that already come to your ears. From the Vienna University of Economics and Business. Then we will have a representative from the platform Async. We will see that especially in the second part. Visual artists are here present, are my help sitting here in the front row. We will introduce them shortly. And then obviously the creators of MozartBeats. We will have an interview video with also the CEO and co-creator of MozartBeats. Now, the technology of NFT is a blockchain-based technology. Now, how does it work? What is a blockchain? This is something our guests are going to explain. That how does it work? How can we apply blockchain technology into arts? Those are all questions that will be answered by our first guest. Please welcome on stage from the Research Institute for Crypto Economics, Vienna University of Economics and Business in Vienna, our first guest, our first professor of the night. Please welcome on stage Professor Alfred Taudes. Now, Professor, I know that you are a professional speaker, that you know how to anchor the evening, to have your audience and to have the attention. This is something very technical, but I'm looking forward to your explanation. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this nice evening. Welcome, lovers of Mozart's music. Everybody knows that Mozart was a musical genius and an innovator in the music space. What is not so well known is that Mozart also was a business model innovator who cleverly used new technologies to connect to his audiences in a new way, profiting from a disruptive change in the way that the music business worked. Following the dominant business model at his time, young Wolfgang Amadeus started as a servant at the court of a nobleman named Hieronymus Colloredo. He was the Prince Archbishop of Salzburg. And young Wolfgang Amadeus started to work there as a concertmaster, and he earned 150 guilders per year for ordered compositions and for entertaining the guests of the Archbishop. Presumably, as an economist, I would say that the revenue of the Archbishop out of this contract was larger than this 150 guilders. Otherwise, the Archbishop wouldn't have entered the contract and wouldn't have sustained it. So the Archbishop enjoyed something that economists would call a producer rent, because the performances and the compositions of Wolfgang helped the Archbishop to increase his network, to have social credit, and eventually make more business. Well, everybody knows how this story continues. Young Wolfgang Amadeus was not satisfied with this business model, and he took the risk and became a self-employed entrepreneur, working on his own and using different sources of income. And a very important source of income for him in his time in Vienna were the self-financed Akademien. Here he organized gatherings, musical performances, where he could present himself as a composer and a piano virtuoso. Made possible was this invention. At that time, new types of pianos came to the market. This is one by Johann Andreas Stein, and these pianos were much louder than those that were previously available, and with such pianos, Mozart could entertain large crowds and collect revenues by himself. So supposedly, at that time, Mozart made 10,000 guilders per year, and there is a letter by his father where he reports about one concert where Mozart earned 1,000 guilders. Of course, all of you know Mozart. He wasn't very skillful in the way he spent his money. But nevertheless, you see the size of the producer rent that the Archbishop collected. And through this innovation, Mozart could directly connect to his audience, cut out the middleman, and take the producer rent for himself. Today, the situation of musicians is quite similar to young Wolfgang Amadeus. Today, it is the digital platforms like Spotify, and it's the labels who control the access of the musician to the market. And they take most of the revenue. I think everybody of you knows how many clicks you need to make a little income on Spotify. And they make huge profits. And those who produce the art basically are left with what is left over. But to the rescue, we have a new type of Stein pianos. And these are called NFTs. The NFT stands for non-fungible tokens. And this thing is huge. It's really a game changer. It allows the musician to directly connect to his audience. The first sign of the success of this new technology was in February this year. Musician Sri Lau, he auctioned off 33 NFTs. He made this project to commemorate the 30 years anniversary of his album. And with this auction, he made 11.7 million US dollars. And the most expensive item there, he could sell for $3.6 million. Money is nice, but the important thing, this new technology also changes the way music is made. Because it's purely digital, and you have totally new opportunities to combine music with visual arts, to make it interactive, and here we are just at the beginning. And this top-selling item of Sri Lau, it contains some unique parts of music. It also came together with a physical vinyl, and it at that time was the second most successful NFT piece sold. The most expensive piece, maybe you've heard, the Art of People. The most expensive art there was 6.6 million. Now, what is an NFT, right? What is this new Stein piano? Yeah, it is a digital Stein piano. NFT stands for non-fungible token. And let me start, what is a token? A token is a digital representation of value that is stored and transacted on a blockchain. The first token was the Bitcoin. And Bitcoins are fungible tokens, which means you can exchange them. They are like euros. If I borrow you 10 euros and you give me back 5 euros, it's no problem. It's 10 euros. If I borrow you Mona Lisa and you give him back 10 paintings of an amateur painter, I wouldn't accept them. Non-fungible tokens are unique. Every token is unique. Now, what is a blockchain? It's a chain of blocks. Yeah, sounds simple. But of course, it's not so easy. The first blockchain was made by Satoshi Nakamoto, the unknown guy who invented Bitcoin, because he wanted to have peer-to-peer money, money without banks. And that means you have to distribute the ledger of transactions, and anybody can join. So there are thousands of computers that store a copy of this database. Now, of course, if you want to store money transactions, you have to first make sure that you cannot change these entries. So it must be immutable. And the second, more tricky point is you must ensure that nobody cheats. Because if I can hold the ledger of my transactions, I always have the incentive that I simply forget the transactions where I spent money. Yeah, I remember, maybe you also have cases where you borrowed some things to other people and people try to forget. Yeah? So you have to find a technology that keeps this thing consistent and in sync. And that is the ingenious idea of Satoshi Nakamoto. It's called a consensus algorithm that with cryptographic techniques and game theory together, combined, ensures that you have a consistent ledger. Otherwise, a money system wouldn't work. So a blockchain is a chain of blocks. The chain is constructed so that you cannot change in the past entries. Because the chains are constructed in such a way, if you change a past transaction, you have to change all transactions that follow them. And while you are doing this change, all the other nodes in the network are continuing to add new transactions to the longest chain. And if you don't control more than half of the computing power in the system, you will lose out. So you don't do it. And this is a very ingenious way of ensuring a system that is distributed, can store value, and is still consistent. Why is this so important? All the databases that we have today, they are all controlled by institutions, by companies or the government. And they control whether you can access the database. So if you want to use Facebook, you have to have a Facebook account. And you have to apply. And if they don't like you, they kick you out. Blockchains are open systems that are available to everybody. You can generate your own keys. You don't have to go to the bank and say, please give me a key. Give me a bank account. Yeah? And everybody can also open nodes. So it's a generally available infrastructure that stores ownership and makes transactions. Why is this so important? Well, the musician can use this general infrastructure to directly offer his works and can collect cryptocurrency in return. An NFT is controlled by what is called a smart contract. Sounds very sophisticated, don't be afraid. It's just a tech password. Yeah? These are small pieces of computer code that are also stored on this network and that are also executed by every node in the network. And that's, of course, very important. That's why they're also called contracts. Because once you have deployed them on the network, you cannot change them. And nobody can manipulate them. And everybody can see them. So it's not like in a bank where you have to trust that they correctly calculate the interest. People always say, if I ask them, do you know how your bank calculates your interest? They always say, yes, professor, I don't know it, but I don't care because anyway it's zero. But you should care, right? So this is a transparent system, yeah? And everybody can use it. And when an artist wants to offer his NFT, he simply deploys such a smart contract. And this smart contract, he has several fields of information that are relevant when you want to sell and own this NFT. The first one is every token in an NFT has a unique ID. This is different from Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin is the same. But if it's an NFT, a non-fungible token, each token has an own ID, and each ID has an owner. Now, how is the owner determined? The owner is determined by a pair of keys, a private key and a public key, and you create them on your own. The public key is something similar to your bank account that everybody knows, and the private key is something similar to your password. But these things are centrally stored in your bank. On a blockchain, you generate these keys yourself, and you can generate as many as you want. But with a private key, you sign your transactions, and you can give ownership to others. So it's a decentralized concept of ownership. What is also stored there is a dictionary that keeps for each of these tokens the metadata, another tech thing. Metadata simply describes how this token in fact looks like. And typically, the metadata is the media file, the JPEG, the MPEG, any combination, and it also can contain a fingerprint to a physical object. So you can link digital objects, tokens, with physical representations. And you always can check whether you're the owner of this physical aspect, because you only have to look up this fingerprint and look in the owner table and see that it's yours. What is also important in a smart contract, the smart contract also contains functions that you call from outside programs. An important function is the mint function, where you generate the non-fungible token. And here you specify the maximum supply. And this is very important because you generate digital scarcity. The problem with digital art before NFTs was, if you have a digital file, you can copy it freely on the internet. Everybody can copy it. And what is the economic value of things that you can freely copy? 0, right? And who is the one who had the pain? The artist, because the platform controls access. And platform monetizes our user data by selling advertising. NFTs totally change this. You have digital scarcity. You can decide how many versions of a single NFT are there. And there are not more. And because it's on the blockchain, it's written on the blockchain, nobody can change it. Even the artist cannot change it. And the second important function is a transfer function, where you transfer ownership. And all these ownership transfers, they are stored on the blockchain, these transactions. So you can always publicly verify who has been the originator and who has owned the NFT. And what is also nice, in this transfer function, you can program a fraction of secondary sales that go to the original artist. One problem with the current art system is that typically as an artist, you especially when you are a painter, you only earn when you sell your artwork first. All the value appreciation goes to intermediaries, like galleries and so on. Here also the value appreciation over time, a fraction of it, goes to the artist. Altogether, this is a new business model to sell art. You don't need platforms anymore. You don't need labels anymore. It's direct from the artist to the audience. We already heard the market size. The first NFTs were made around 4 years ago. They were funny experiments with games. And then, as usual with new technologies in the blockchain space, you have a slow appreciation. And we already heard the first half of the year together, we have $2.5 billion in sales volume in NFTs. This, of course, is not only music NFTs, these are other NFTs, but it's quite remarkable. And it's one of the killer applications of blockchains. So blockchains are not cryptocurrency anymore. Of course, cryptocurrencies are very important, but we now have a second very important field for blockchains. Looking at this, I would say if Mozart would live today, for sure he would have grabbed this opportunity and get rid of Hieronymus Colloredo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Now, we obviously would have had more questions. Professor, I will ask you to stay on stage with us, to take a seat, because before I invite our next guest, I will just keep that here, because they're going to need that. We have to be a little bit tight in time tonight, because as we said at the beginning, we are broadcasting live. So this means that at 7:30 sharp, we need to end the first part. So I have to look at our watch, which says already 7:02. We have 28 minutes, or almost 27 minutes left to talk to the other two guests that I'm going to invite on stage right now. This is why we're going to skip some questions, Professor, but thank you very much. Definitely we have a better idea of what NFTs is about and how it is connected to cryptocurrencies and arts. Now, tonight's actual topic is the digital art. What is it? How does it work? How we will take it over in the future in our everyday life. This is definitely something that makes the difference, and we are kind of already sniffing a little bit how future could look like, and it's not even that far away. A lot of people are already doing it, so it's actually already present, but this is probably one of the forms that in future will be totally normal, as internet is for every one of us today. Now, please, welcome on stage two of the most successful NFT artists. They said we are NFT artists in Vienna, and I'm very happy that they're here. They're very nice, they're very cool guys. Please welcome on stage Daniel Poschinger and Jascha Süß.
Okay. Hi.
So here we are, Daniel and Yash. Welcome on stage, and thank you for being here tonight. It's very interesting, and it's thrilling to know how you become such an artist. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Daniel, would you like to start?
Of course, yeah. So my journey in this whole creative industry started a couple of years ago, when I went to a school for industrial design, basically, where we learned how to transfer an idea that we had in our head onto a flat piece of paper through the medium of drawing, and to convey that idea to a customer. And since then, we had the first workshops there as well into 3D software. And since then, I've been hooked into that medium. And I've been fascinated with the idea that you could basically sit in front of a PC that only knows ones and zeros, and you can transfer one idea that you have in your head onto this digital world, and everybody else can understand that immediately, that world. So I have been creating 3D artworks ever since. Maybe we can change that slide to the art that I created.
The one of yours.
Yeah. So because this is
Bored Ape.
Those are all the projects.
There you go.
Yeah.
While you're talking, I think this is definitely a slide that is moving, so you can watch the work that Daniel has been doing. It's really fascinating. And it's amazing if you look at it, what is possible. But Daniel, go on.
So yeah, I've been creating those kind of 3D artworks or 3D animations for years now, and I never really saw it as an artwork myself, because it was just a hobby for me. I would have created those till the end of my life probably for free, because I just enjoyed doing them. And I from the beginning I just started to post them on social media. Got some attention here and there, and then the first people came and recognized my work and wanted me to do work for them, for their companies, for individuals like musicians. I did music videos and stuff like that. But it was always the work of another person, or a commission of another person involved. I didn't get to do what I like to do.
Not your own creation.
Exactly, not in a commercial sense, at least. So my own stuff I just put on social media, and that was basically for free. And now with the NFTs, since the end of last year or beginning of this year, there suddenly has been a change in value of the work that we as digital artists do. Because suddenly there is a value attached to the pieces of art or the works that we do that we didn't actually really see as a kind of art, but it actually is. And people or people want to pay us money for it.
They want to pay you money.
And
you refused, of course.
Yeah, of course. I said no.
So this is how you came in contact with NFT and how you just started your journey. So Yasha, how about you? How was your start and how did you get in touch with NFTs the first time?
Yeah, so basically I have a background in live visuals, so I do visuals for concerts and music festivals. And I do this. I'm really like obsessed with this synthesis of music and image, and I just love creating audiovisual pieces. So to do this, I always use 3D software, and to learn the 3D software, because you just have those infinite possibilities, and it is a bit overwhelming at first. So what I did when I started out is just to practice just a creative piece of art every day and post it. And I took this example by people and artists we've heard about today already, who kind of started this practice of creating artworks every day. And by doing this, it would push myself to just get better every day. And then also, it was interesting because after a while, you could look back on the process you've made. And so, while doing this, it was really interesting because I posted all of this online, and then new opportunities arise from that. So, for instance, the DJ and producer duo, Kruder and Dorfmeister, they saw my work on Instagram, and they approached me and asked me if I wanted to do the live show for them. And it was a great opportunity, and this is what I'm doing also now. And the same goes for the NFT space. It was like this body of work that when the NFT movement came around, these artworks suddenly were appreciated in a completely new way, And so when I've heard about NFTs in last summer, I decided to apply for a platform, and I got accepted to Super Rare, luckily.
So Super Rare is a platform where you can put on your art?
Yes, it is actually a curated platform, because the interesting thing about NFTs is that you have open platforms, because the technology is open for anyone, right? So anyone can mint an NFT. But then there's also this layer above it where there are these platforms that are curated.
So you use the word, sorry for our audience, that we all are on the same page here. Mint NFT, we're talking about minting, which some of you may know. I heard it, to be honest, tonight the first time. So this is the process of creating an NFT, is that correct?
Exactly, that's the process.
Okay. So yes, it's very interesting. We talked before about Golden Ape. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So yeah, in the beginning, it was for me it was really hard to get into the NFT space. I mean, to be accepted in one of those platforms that Yasha just mentioned, because actually Yasha told me about NFTs in summer of 2020, and I was just amazed by the idea that you could sell an artwork for actual money.
It works.
Yeah,
you can make a living out of it.
It actually works. It's true. And so I tried to get into a lot of this very big and prestigious platforms that were out there, and Yasha was already a part of it. And so I got this FOMO, the fear of missing out, which is a big term in the crypto space, because you have constant FOMO once you join the space, because you always feel like you're missing out on something.
You're telling us you sleep very well at night.
No, I don't sleep since the beginning of this year. No, but in the beginning it was really hard for me because I joined where the hype was really on a peak, and thousands of artists were applying to different kind of platforms, and the biggest ones, of course, were the ones that were the most crowded. And the market was just overflooding with artists, because everybody wanted to get a piece of the cake, right? And so I applied to a bunch of different platforms. I didn't get in, but I didn't give up. And back then there were those clubhouse rooms where you would join into a conversation with the community and people like collectors and different artists, and you could just talk to each other and be very supportive of each other. And then through some people, I joined a mid-sized platform and uploaded my first works, but nothing happened. Like there's this conception that you upload your first NFT and it immediately sells, but that's not the case. You really have to communicate with collectors and stuff like that. And so I started to do my own collection of these apes that you see back here. I took a project that was already there, which was like basically 2D flat images of apes, and I turned them into 3D animated versions of them. And for that, I got a big recognition all of a sudden, even though that was happening on an open platform. So it was not curated. Anybody could join that platform, and I just put it up there. And then eventually, a lot of people recognized that work of mine, and eventually the biggest auction house in the world, Sotheby's in London, approached me and asked me if I could do this animation for them as part of their auction. I think it was 2 months ago or so, where they sold off these apes. And I did a promotional video for them, and this was kind of a breakthrough moment.
So this ape has already been sold?
No, this was just a promotional video for the
otherwise I would have
auction.
asked how much, because
Yeah,
that's the point.
No, there's no value attached to that one, yeah.
I mean, there is a price for the original apes.
Yeah, the original apes made $21 million in the auction, I think.
So you get all this money?
No, I wish. I
You
wish.
own
I
two
wouldn't.
apes, though.
I think I wouldn't be sitting there, but if that was the case. But yeah, no, but the original apes, they started out in March this year for around $250. Right now, the least amount of money you can spend on these apes is about $150,000. So yeah.
That's not bad.
It's a pretty good return on investment if you
Yes, definitely a good return on investment. So what about if some artists are here tonight, maybe, or just listening to us on the internet, and they would join the NFT community? It sounds to me that the joining NFT is a little bit of a challenge. It's not that easy. You said that already in your first intervention. Would you, as affirmed artists, have any suggestions to give to those who might be interested in this process of creating, of being creative and create their own piece of art? Yasha.
I mean, joining the NFT space is not hard at all, you just join the community. Basically, the platforms to be on, I mean, communication-wise, the social platforms are Twitter and Discord for the most part. And once you start following, the right people on Twitter, you will get sucked into the bubble very quickly, and you will get a hang of like what the whole community is about. So that's definitely what I would recommend to any new people to the space. And when it comes to creating, I think the most interesting projects are the ones that don't exist yet. Just create something completely new, or take your approach to art, and combine it with the technology of NFT, and try to find, where you can find your USP. So if I maybe can, sorry, no,
Go ahead.
I'm not going to wrap.
We have time.
All right. Well, for example, one thing that when I create my art, I'm very specific about is that I want it to be meant for it to be displayed. So when a collector buys a piece of my art, which is, for example, one of those, I will send them actually a physical version, like a little screen, to it, and I also create the whole piece in order that it's a very first of all, it's a seamless loop, so it runs forever, and then also it has a pace that is just very good to watch when it just stands on your desk, so it's not too hectic. And then also what I do is when a collector buys it, not only the collector gets it, but also the top 3 bidders that didn't get the piece. And that gets, gives it a really interesting dynamic, because then you realize it's not actually about the display. about the thing it references to, and each copy of the piece just makes it more valuable.
It's very interesting.
Free advertisement.
Yeah.
Do you have an advice short, like
Sure.
forget it or whatever?
Don't do it. No,
Don't
I'm
do
just
it.
kidding.
Your last
Basically, I
conclusion.
would say to stay true to yourself, or the thing that you like to do the most, because people, especially in this community, see through people that just join it for the money very fast. It just kind of regulates itself, because there is no upper layer that regulates anything. It's very open. It's very supportive of each other. But the thing is that it's also, like I said, people who just join it for the money won't make it, and I think it's very cool. Because as long as you stay true to yourself and do the thing that you're most excited about yourself, people will recognize that, and also don't focus too much on the different kind of platforms. Like I said before, you don't need to be accepted in like a high tier platform to be able to make it. It's really simple. Just try it out and see what works for you. There's no general advice that
Well, that's a
works for
powerful
anyone.
statement. Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you,
Thanks.
Jascha. Now, it's very interesting. I personally like, we've been knowing each other this afternoon, the passion you two guys put into it. You may be wondering why we asked Professor Taudes to join and into the conversation. We are going to have a little question and answer with you, ladies and gentlemen, here in the Odeon Theater. If you have any questions, write them down or don't forget them, because we'll come to you in a second. I was just, one question that I have that we have not prepared. I was realizing now listening to you, you both have black nails. Does anything have to do with NFTs or with your art?
Yeah,
Is
that's
this
the
part
sign.
of the community?
That's the sign of an NFT artist.
You're
That's how
kidding? Is that right?
No.
No. I mean, why not? But
It's
No,
actually something we just realized a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
We had the idea on the same day.
you did it independently, one from another.
It was Jascha's birthday a few days ago, and he had a party, and I wanted to do black nails for the party, and
Yeah.
my girlfriend didn't have time that day to do it for me, because those are like a special kind that actually change color when they're they turn color by temperature.
Yeah.
So she didn't have time, so I went to the party, and then Jascha showed up with black fingernails, and I was like, how did that happen? And so we agreed for this event. We would
Before we pass to the question and answer with our audience, thank you very much, guys. I actually have a question for Professor Taudes. Could you explain us how the NFTs are connected to the most #1 famous cryptocurrency, Bitcoin?
Well, without Bitcoin, there wouldn't be any NFTs. Yes.
Period.
So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, the first token on a blockchain. The only difference is that Bitcoin is a fungible token.
Yeah, we
right?
heard that in your
so
explanation.
every
right?
Bitcoin is the same. That's why it's easier to store it and to transfer it. The origin of NFTs were CryptoKitties. This was a game that was very popular in 2017, where they suddenly invented tokens where each one was different, because each one was a cat, a digital cat, and you could breed this cat and trade them. And they were so popular that the Ethereum blockchain got totally jammed, because everybody played this game. And then many people thought, well, why don't we make another standard for this new token? And this was the birth, basically, of non-fungible tokens.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for our guests, for our artists, for our professor, that are crypto or that are NFT related, show up your hands. We have somebody with the microphone going around. We fortunately are a little bit blended here. There she goes. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question about the hype economy. So how much would you say is the difference between genuine value being created and how much is hype economy, currency speculation, or just rich crypto kitties who are using their newfound funds to play with a new market?
So actually the question is it a bubble? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Or how much is genuine, how much is bubble?
Thank you. Yes, Daniel, when you start.
I don't think there's a a concrete answer for that, and you definitely have to separate those two kind of things, because there's a lot of projects coming out every day, and they all generate some kind of a value that might or might not be there. That's completely true. But I think once you join the whole scene, you have to really distinguish between art and collectibles. And we have seen over the last couple months, we have seen a very big hype in collectibles, like profile pictures, where just like the CryptoPunks and the Bored Apes, where there's 10,000 editions of one specific kind, and we see that kind of dying down right now, and the whole process or the whole space is moving a bit more towards one-of-one of actual, or not actual artists, but one-of-one's artworks. So it's definitely something that you have to keep a track on, because you can't really say, and the whole space is moving so fast that it could be happening tomorrow that everything is worth nothing anymore. Or it could be like
total
10x,
loss.
right? Yeah.
So think about the ROI in those
Yeah,
cases.
yeah. It's a really tough
Okay,
question.
any other questions from the audience? I see a hand. Go ahead.
Hey, my question would be, how as an artist or NFT owner do you prevent that anyone rips off your digital image or animation, takes it out of the NFT and replicates it like again endlessly?
I think this is a good question for the professor. Would you like to answer it?
Well, as you correctly said, that the digital image can be copied endlessly in a way, but the real value is this proof of ownership. If you take a metaphor, everybody who pays the entrance fee to the Louvre can take a look at Mona Lisa, but there's only one organization who owns it, and that's of course different. This ripping off is really a problem in the space, because you have this key system where everybody can generate keys, which is nice, because you don't need the government with identifications and passports. On the other hand, of course, somebody can steal the image, create your own keys and make your own NFT. That's why also in this space we will need curators. That's why you have this curated space who check who it is, who check for these duplicates. But this is one of the problems that we are still currently facing in the space.
Definitely. If I may add to that, what was really interesting so far is that a lot of it happened through the community. It was kind of self-regulating itself. So if something was a scam or something was ripping off someone, then it would quickly be known all around the community. The artist would post it, and then all of his supporters would post it, and it would very quickly be recognized. As the space grows, of course, this will get harder, and that is where curation comes in.
Okay. Well, it's 7:25 in 5 seconds. We are going to start the second part at 7:30 sharp. You have one question more? Go ahead.
My question would be, I have a specific question about the platforms themselves, and what platform would you recommend? So I've already also tried to get into Super Rare. OpenSea is, of course, or Nifty Gateways, of course, also very hard to get in. We are on OpenSea, and also on Foundation we are right now in the process. What platform would you recommend as a start or in general?
As a start, I would always probably recommend OpenSea anyways, because it's just open, and you can even lazy mint. For those who don't know, that is the process of minting a artwork or writing it into the blockchain always costs money, or you have to pay a fee for that a little bit. And on OpenSea, they offer this system, which is kind of a print-on-demand thing, where you don't really write it into the blockchain, but you upload it to their server, and as soon as somebody wants to buy it, it then gets written into the blockchain. So this is a very cool tool for artists who have not made any sales yet, for example, and also want to upload artworks on the platform, but don't want to actually pay for it. It's not a real NFT at that point, but you can just try out things and try try stuff that if it works for you or if it's maybe the wrong direction. But as I said before, finding the right platform is something very specific to the artists themselves. So if I wouldn't give you any advice on what platform to join before I don't actually know what kind of art you're making, because that also depends on which platform might be the best for you.
But it seems to be critical.
No, it's not really critical. I think you can make it on any platform.
Okay.
At least as long as you like put in the work, you can't like, even if you get accepted in the best platform out there and the biggest one, maybe you get a sale, but it won't be like a persistent thing, because if you don't do your work and your research, you won't make it on that big platform as well. But if you want, we can talk later.
Yes.
And we can talk about that more.
Thank you very much to our guests, Daniel Poschinger, Jascha Süß, Professor Taudes, for being here and explaining to us how all that works. You can make an applause. Thank you, guys. Now we will make a very short break, about 2.5 minutes before we start with the second part for this historical moment, where we'll be watching how a live musical programmable music is created, a live NFT music with our string quartet. Stay tuned for those who are watching us from home. Come back, be fast. If you have to go to the toilet, 7:30. It's in 3 minutes sharp. See you there. Thank you. Welcome back to everybody. Thank you for being here. Some more guests are pouring in. I hope you had a nice break. We are starting our second part, which is a little bit cooler. We are not so time pressed as in the first part, even though we continue to streams, and we say hello obviously to the async Twitter community and to our guests here and everybody watching us on the internet. Now it's 7:33 p.m. We are ready for our second part, where we will be witnessing the first time that we will see how programmable music will be performed live. This is, believe me, we have done a rehearsal this afternoon, and I've been introduced to this topic and to the way this is created by Francisco. You will know him later, how this is created. And it's really, really fascinating. It's amazing. So for those tuning in right now on the internet or on the streaming, my name is Marco Di Sapia, and I'm your host tonight, and I'm very happy to be part of tonight's show and tonight's introduction and explanation of what NFT is and how it is related to art. Now, NFTs has become in the late time a bit less of a novelty and is more and more accepted in the so-called pop cultural landscape. How it works, we've been hearing that in the first part. I imagine that people joining us right now on the internet already know much more on NFT than most of us, especially me, knew before this evening. It's definitely worth to look deeper into how NFTs work. We have heard the word platform, and we're going to talk about a special platform tonight that does the things a little bit different. The name of the platform is Async Art. Now, the platform Async Art works basically like most of all the other platforms, but what is important to know is NFTs get auctioned off on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, for those of you who may not be really not know so much about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Ethereum, both the number 1 and number 2 blockchain cryptocurrencies, and there are discussions about that the Ethereum may be the one that may overpass Bitcoin because it's easy to use to pay. So this is why async is auctioned off on the Ethereum blockchain. We will reveal why async is so successful, what's the recipe for success, because we will present tonight, as I already said, the first classical music NFT made in Vienna, Austria, the capital of music. My first guest tonight, he's a very nice guy. He lives in London, but comes from Greece, and as far as I understood, he splits himself between London and Athens. And as our previous guests, he's a very cool guy with a lot of creativity and really puts a lot of input, and it's a pleasure to listen to him, to all the way he sees the world and what are NFTs we've been discussing this afternoon. And his name is already a program. Please welcome on stage, and I have to pay attention that I pronounce it well, Achilleas Sarantaris.
You're right. How you doing? There.
Do you have everything you need?
I think so.
You think so? Very good. Achilleas Sarantaris.
Sarantaris.
Because I wrote down his name not correctly before this evening, and tonight I said, oh, you are Santata. No, I'm Achilleas Sarantaris. Achilleas, tell us a little bit about NFTs, about how that works, how you create it. You have something prepared for us.
Yeah, so I'm the music producer for Async Music and Async Art, which is a platform that does programmable NFTs. So earlier we heard about why NFTs are great, what's so new about them. The artists who were here were amazing. What we do is we take the concept of immutable art and music on the blockchain, and we give it an extra element, which is that it changes over time, right? So the idea of programmable art is, you have your visual art, for example, you have your painting or your bored ape, as we talked about earlier, and of course you tie it to an ERC-721 token, which is the NFT that's on the blockchain, and then you sell it off and you do all sorts of things with it. On Async, we take the painting or the song, and instead of auctioning it off as one thing or making it as one thing, we split it down into layers, right? Each layer is a part of that artwork. So for example, think about a portrait. You can have like Mona Lisa, for example, right? You take the eyes, that's one layer. You take the nose, that's a different layer. You take the mouth, that's a third layer. So you take the parts of the artwork, in this case the visual art, and you break them down. And then you give each of these parts, which are called the layers, different possible variations, right? Which are called states. So for example, your painting can have 5 different noses, 10 different mouths, 9 different ears. And all of these things are controlled by the audience. And this is what's called programmable art. So the idea here is, by auctioning off individual layers, you're giving the audience the ability to interact and change the art forever, because it's on the blockchain. So we're talking about ever-evolving interactive art. That's the basis of what Async does and what got me very interested in the space. Here's an example of something. This is a piece by Pak, who's currently a very popular crypto artist called The Tribe, and it represents the different aspects of Ethereum is the idea, right? You have, on the very end, the miners. You have in the center, sort of like the core of the chain. And there are 25 layers to this piece. So 25 different parts that can be changed and interacted with. And as you see, there's about, I think, a few million different variations of this painting. So every day when you go and check Async, or when you go in the gallery, you can see maybe a different variation. There's 9 million variations changing forever through time, through the input of the audience, right? So we're talking about interactive art. That's the layered system for Async art. We also do programmable autonomous art. So that's art driven by data. You can have, for example, a painting that changes based on the time of the day, right? If it's 12 p.m., it can show one thing. If it's 1 p.m., a different thing. If it's like January 25th, it can be a different painting from March the 7th, right? So it can change every day over the year. Or it can change based on any sort of data that we're feeding into the art piece itself. So it can change based on the stock prices, based on the weather, based on how much Ethereum you have on your wallet, right? And all these things happen in a decentralized manner, so no one's controlling it. It does it so by itself. So that's what Async does. Async is trying to bring into fruition an idea of art as something that doesn't stay static, but evolves over time, either through interaction with real human beings or with data. And we're seeing that this has been so far a very interesting pursuit.
Clear now, isn't it?
Does that make sense? I hope it does.
No, it makes a lot of sense, especially, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, when we'll have a look later on the live performance with our musicians, you will definitely understand what Achilles is talking about, because the first time you get in contact, and this is always when something is new, you are a little bit overwhelmed. It's a lot of information. You speak very fast. That doesn't help.
I do.
So you get us a lot of information. We have to be very fast to get it. So I always already heard it a little bit, so I can follow you. But believe me, once you will have seen the practical aspect, the way we will create the programmable music, you will probably have this little aha, which is definitely fascinating. So you are the music producer of Async Art?
That's correct.
Async Art, that is correct. And we asked our guests before, what is your advice that you would give to an artist that is interested in taking part?
So from my side, and that obviously is biased because I work for Async, I would tell you to look at the blockchain space and the NFT space as a medium for creation, rather than just as a distribution mechanism, right? So it's not just that you can sell things fast with crypto, it's you can make things that weren't possible before, like art that changes over time, art that's interactable in a way that doesn't require someone to change it manually, right? So I think of the blockchain as a medium for creation, and I think artists who do the same thing might come up with some really cool things.
That was pretty good.
Try to slow down a bit as well.
No, wonderful. That's just the speed, but we can follow you, I think. Cool. Now, we've heard the word tonight, minting, mint to mint, and minting is that it has nothing to do with fresh breath, that we know already. Can you nevertheless explain us a little bit how minting works?
Yeah, so you have your thing, it can be a picture or a song, on your computer. In order to put it on the blockchain, right, you have to essentially put a signature on the blockchain that says, here is my piece and this is it, that stays on there forever, right? That's why these things are being sold right now. That's why there's hype, is because we found a way to make digital items into real tangible objects, digital tangible objects. So minting is just the process of signing that onto the blockchain. It costs some money to pay the miners to do it for you. But after that, the thing exists forever. And that's kind of cool.
Forever?
Forever. Forever, ever.
Like the cryptocurrencies.
Like the cryptocurrencies.
Like the cryptocurrencies. Yeah. Now, you will have to market those NFTs, because creating them is not enough. You have to market them. So how and where do you do that?
So, as the guests before spoke about, there's many different platforms for doing that. On Async, if you mint an NFT on Async, you can also sell it on the Async marketplace, right? We're just deploying a new auction contract that enables for really easy auctioning of our NFTs. And then, again, because of the blockchain is interoperable, right? So if you make an NFT, you can sell it anywhere, in any different platform. It's really cool that there's no sort of walls around the thing you made. But obviously, I would recommend you mint and sell on our platform, because that's my job.
Yes, you're paid for that.
I'm paid for that.
We totally understand. Now, we've been talking about Async. You're the music one that takes care of the music. But there is a CEO of Async Art and a co-founder, actually, of the platform. His name is Conlan Rios. And we have a pre-recorded video where Conlan Rios is talking to us. This is not Conlan Rios. This is this is the interview of Conlan Rios that we will introduce. Is this the video we're supposed?
Conlan's not here. We have me instead, I guess.
We have done a dress rehearsal where we've been through all these videos. This is what a dress rehearsal is supposed to be for. So maybe this is a good opportunity for our audience to ask some question to Achilles.
Maybe I'm the one who caused the problem.
Let's see if Conlan is starting.
It was my fault, okay.
There you go.
I'm very happy to have you, and I'm really excited about the project you're doing with Async, and I've been a big fan of Async since I first heard about it. My first question is, what motivated you to start Async in the first place?
Yeah, I've been in the cryptocurrency on and off, starting Bitcoin since 2012, and then really got into Ethereum around 2017. So I've been mostly in the DeFi space when I first got in as a day trader and a developer, and then discovered NFTs in about 2018 and 2019. So I'm got into the metaverse aspect of it. So I was collecting a lot of digital land to build these galleries to display digital art. And so that's how I got into the NFT community initially as a land developer, you know, hiring people to come in and build these galleries, leasing these galleries to artists to display their works into the virtual world. So while all this was going on and hosting art events in this, you know, in this virtual metaverse. So while all of this was going on, there came a point where I wanted to make some art of my own. And I was like, okay, I'd like to make something. And my background is my professional background is in mobile and game development. And so I came to it from a game developer's perspective. And I was like, okay, well, what can the viewer, the participant, do with this art? Like, ideally, I'd like to have them be able to reach into like the digital painting and own part of the painting and maybe collaborate a bit with the artist. So I originally started on this path of making this piece, like it was kind of like a fantasy themed piece with like, kind of like a Lord of the Rings style piece where like there'd be these characters around a campfire and people could own a character around the campfire and maybe like change like their pose or their stance to reflect their, you know, their mood. Like maybe if I'm in a angry mood, I'd have the dwarven barbarian scowling. Or if I felt triumphant, I'd have like the character, you know, holding up some gold or something. So anyway, I started going down this path of making this art piece. But again, being a game developer, I know that like when you make art, sometimes you can, you know, cut off a whole potential audience if they don't like a certain style. Like if the style doesn't resonate with them, they're not going to engage with the piece. They may be like, hey, I don't like pixel art or I don't like 3D art, and then you know you're kind of cut off. And so I was nervous about making a piece and then the art style not resonating with people, and then the concept not being you know, explored. So that's when I paused and I said, wait a minute, you know, I'm talking with artists every week, I'm collecting with artists, I'm talking with collectors in the space. Maybe there's an opportunity here to build a platform where they could all come in and build on top of this. And so, you know, when we launched in 2020, the first piece, which was The First Supper, which is a remix of Da Vinci's Last Supper, was exactly that. It was a collaboration with 13 of, at the time, some of the top selling NFT artists in the space. These are all artists that I was, you know, either leasing land to or had a relationship with through collecting their work. And so I just reached out to them and said, hey, like, would you like to come in and be part of this big experiment? And so The First Supper was our Genesis piece where every artist contributed a layer, a character at this dinner table. And there's actually more layers that can be owned in the piece, like the floor is actually tokenized, the ceiling's tokenized, all the portraits on the walls are tokenized. But all the artists contributed a layer. And now, you know, I think there's about like 15 different owners who collectively own this piece. And when you own a layer, you can use the abilities that were given to you by the artist. So a really simple ability is just state change. You know, the artist might provide 5 or 6 or 10 different states that you can choose whenever you want, as you know, as your right as the owner, which state the piece is currently showing. And some of the other layers have abilities like positional change. So you can actually move them, again, within the artist's original envision. So you can move them on the X or Y axis between certain constraints, or you can rotate certain aspects. So you're really becoming, when you buy a layer on Aesthetic Art, you're really becoming part of the work itself. You become that character or that, you know, that sun or moon, or you become part of the painting.
That sounds amazing. What's your vision behind async music, since this is something you introduced later on?
Yeah, so when we first launched in last year, you know, originally we just had visuals, but from the beginning, you know, we were already thinking like, okay, what other types of media could this be applied to? And music was the next one. I don't have a music background. I love music, but I'm not like, I don't play instruments. But the vision for this was like, okay, can we bring the same idea over to music? And I mean, the good news is musicians are already thinking about their songs in layers. They layer stems. That's what we came to find out. So there's layer stems. They're just not thinking about it yet conceptually. And so I think the vision here is the same thing for art. Like, we'd love to add another component to music, not just for a few musicians, really for all musicians. So just like all musicians and artists are aware, like if you're classically trained, you're gonna be aware of all the aspects of making a piece. You may not utilize them, but like with art, you know, there's composition and lighting and depth and all this that you're aware of, you may not utilize. We'd love to add interactivity just as a core component to art and music. And that, you know, it doesn't mean that every music song will incorporate interactivity, but at least every musician will be aware of its possibility and ask themselves, oh, does my track, do I want a part that's interactable or not? So that's our long-term vision for every musician to take that into account.
And how or where do you see the future of music within the world of NFTs, based on what you've done and based on how you see, the world of NFTs and music evolving?
Yeah, I think it's, at a base level, you can just collect a song as an NFT. But I think at a higher level, it's going to be a way for musicians to really connect with their audience. So right now, you're really disconnected from who's listening to your song. Like you put out a song, and your audience just becomes numbers at that point. Your audience is just like a number of like, okay, well, we had so many streams on Spotify, so many streams on Pandora or SoundCloud, or, but with NFTs, you literally can reach out to any specific one person. Now what the musician chooses to do with that is up to them, but that's what NFTs allow you to do. You can literally say like, hey, I'm going to airdrop a reward for all my fans who've been listening anywhere on the blockchain. Maybe the musician has their own social currency. They can give out social currency. Or maybe another musician's collaborating with them. Say, hey, I want to tap into all your fans, and I can just pull up the list of who owns your records or your blanks or your NFTs, and now I can interact with them. And so it's really just connecting the consumer and the creator together in a way that was never before possible, like at this level, this granular level.
Perfect. What advice do you have for an artist or a musician that is curious and interested in the NFT space?
Yeah, great question. So, I'd say if you're already curious and interested, that's great. Get started. I would apply to all the major platforms. And async is different in that, once we validate that you verify who you are, at that point, we don't filter off of how popular you are, how big your social network is. We want as many creators as possible to come to async. So I would say, of course, come to async for sure, but also explore the space. One of the powers of NFTs is the interoperability of these assets. So if you just stick to one platform, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because each platform has its strengths and weaknesses and what projects it can tap into. And so this isn't the same idea. This isn't the same as Web 2, where, okay, I'm going to go to, Pandora and just put all my music up there and now I'm done. It's like, no, because music is now able to do more things than what's possible before. So it's really on you to explore as much as you can in this space. It really is a whole new, NFTs have opened up how to create and consume this media. And so I would say if you're interested, explore as much as possible. Don't limit yourself to just the first platform or first marketplace you come to.
Yeah, and I can definitely recommend applying and working with Async, since we've been extremely happy collaborating with you guys. Thank you so much, Conlon, for your time, and I'm really looking forward to see I know some of the things that you guys are working on, and I'm really looking forward to see more exciting things come from Async. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Conlon Ria, CEO and co-founder of Async. The interviewer was Baher Al-Hakim, that I will introduce shortly. The guy coming on stage helping us out, Francisco Supin. We will introduce these two figures in a few seconds. One question for you. Async Art is also doing programmable music. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. That's what we're here for tonight. I won't bore you with much more speaking, but I would like to shortly explain exactly what we're doing with Async Music and why it's different. So I hope I was clear enough earlier when I described programmable art as art that changes over time with honest interaction, right? So we're applying the same thing to music. The music industry is in a very nascent stage right now in terms of its interaction with NFTs, but we're seeing massive potential for breaking down the artificial boundaries that have been put up by the music industry for the last 30, 40 years, where they've siloed off musicians from their audiences, essentially, by acting as distributors who take the massive chunk of earnings and income. With Async Music, the core idea is to try and break that wall down and involve the audience and the fans in the musician's work as closely as possible, which is something we did, help do with MozartBeats tonight. So how does Async Music work? You don't have to read the whole thing. I can explain very briefly what's going on here, okay? So you have slowly. Okay, very slowly, very slowly. Three things, okay? You have the NFT, which is the song. That's the same as all the other NFTs we talked about. It's on the blockchain. Then you have the stem NFTs. So the drums, for example, right, of a song, you can have 5 different drums that are possible. You can have electronic drums, 808 drums, jazz drums, and like a breakbeat. Then the vocals, you can have 5 different vocalists who are singing different lyrics, for example, about a story, right? And these are the stems. So each stem has a different possibility that affects the master track, right? So if you own a stem, you can change what the master track sounds like to everyone in the world. That's the idea, right? So say you own the vocals layer, and you have a song that talks about, for example, a relationship, you could flip it from the male perspective to the female perspective. So a song stops being a static thing that's recorded and then done with, becomes something that evolves over time and that changes based on interactivity. And I think that's a particularly powerful tool for musicians who have struggled with being able to tell stories directly to their fans and hear back from them in a way. And then the third thing is the limited editions, right? So think about these as like vinyls or as a snapshot in the history of the song. So you can use one of these things, which are very affordable, is the idea, right? NFTs usually are very expensive. These things are quite affordable, to capture one instance in the evolution of the song that I was talking about earlier, right? A snapshot in time, like a glimmer of its history. That's yours forever to keep. And that could be like rare or could be not rare. It depends on what everyone else is doing. So we're introducing an ecosystem, essentially, where fans can interact in a very intimate manner with the musician, and musicians are able to produce. I started off in async as a musician myself. That was the first piece I did, was a piece with my band, and I found the process so exciting that I decided to do this full time. Exactly because I saw the potential for storytelling and interactivity, and again, blockchain is a medium for potentiality rather than just a distribution mechanism. So this is a sneak peek of how MozartBeats looks like. As you can see, you have the beautiful cover image by Mankind, and you have the different stem mixes there. So you have violin, viola, violin 2, viola and cello. Francisco and Baher will explain more about this later, but this is our player. You can see what's currently active, and then if you own one of the stem layers, you can go and alter the song for everyone else in the world, right? And then that's what they get to listen to because you chose that. So it's about the interaction between different collectors and the collector and the musician. And then you can also, of course, as I said earlier, capture the current state of the song in a blank record. And that's just your little vinyl that you get to keep forever and download and listen to it, show off to your friends maybe, whatever you want to do with it, right? But we're trying to crack exactly how, we're going to onboard the music industry onto the blockchain. It's something that's still happening very, very slowly. I think the best way to do that really is through, interactivity, programmability, evolution, and my motto, which I've said like 4 times already, is think about the blockchain as a medium for creativity rather than as just a means to sell something. And that, I think, has opened up so many doors and will open up even more doors for musicians, hopefully in the future.
Before we get into the first programmable music NFT, so the one we're talking about tonight, MozartBeats, give me a short answer.
Sure, yeah.
Speak slowly but short. Would you compare, this is really a profound question, that as DeFi is the cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, these NFTs could be the like decentralized music, so the interaction between artists and the audience is, first of all, more direct, and second of all, decentralized. We all don't have the labels that control the marketing of the recordings. Would you compare that, or is it completely different?
Yeah, I think that's roughly right. I mean, first of all, I think that 90% of the music industry will be on the blockchain in the next 5 years. If it's not, I'll say I was wrong, but I think that's the case.
So the labels are going to die, definitely.
They're just going to be integrated in the ecosystem, right? They're going to provide initial funding, for example, marketing resources, but they will not be the gatekeeper of the song because that's no longer necessary.
So it's going to be complementary.
The song is free now, right? Like you don't have to capture it back in again. So to answer your point, I think what we're currently seeing in the art space is a slow evolution from the very basic idea, okay, I can get a picture on the blockchain and sell it, to more interactive, gamified, evolving things. Like one of them is async. There's other projects as well happening right now, which are a step after the initial art thing. It's the same thing like it's 1998, right? And you go to pets.com to buy pet food, and you're like the internet, right? We're getting there. It's evolving. And I think what we're trying to do with async music is, again, look at a step further than just tokenizing a song, but create a new thing that didn't exist before, which is a programmable, evolving song.
Programmable music, yes. So we've been talking about it. We've been mentioning it. MozartBeats, I think we have a trailer to show. Yeah. Is that right? So that you get a little bit of an idea what we're talking about, and then we'll invite our guests.
Let me see if I can do this properly, okay?
That's good.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Francisco Supin and I'm the founder of MozartBeats. We are very excited to be launching soon our first NFT on acing art. Stay tuned for more.
Wonderful. So please welcome on stage the founders of MozartBeats, Francisco Supin and Baher Al-Hakim. Have a seat, guys. Now we put theory into practice. Finally, we heard some music. 90 minutes of talking. Very interesting, very entertaining, everybody, and a lot of information we got it, but finally we got to listen to some music and later on then live. So here we are with the founders of MozartBeats. We're talking about programmable music, NFTs. Baher, I'll start with you. Just give an idea, how did all this start?
Well, this started very spontaneously. I mean, we were just talking about it before the event started. Towards end of 2020 and early 2021, as more and more news started coming out from the NFT space, I've known about it since 2018, but I really didn't spend time looking into it because I've been busy with my day job. But because of the pandemic, we had more time to spend at home, so I started looking more into it. And the more I looked, the more I got obsessed. The more I looked, the more I got obsessed. And I was spending my weekends, like literally, I would wake up and I would go to a cafe and I would just read about NFTs. And I have one of the shareholders, investors in my business is a very famous collector. He's been in the space since 2018. So I started having weekly calls with him to try and understand more about the space. And my girlfriend, Eine, is a classical musician, and I'm a very big fan of classical music. So as I started grasping the impact of NFTs, I started having discussions with her about how this can change classical music. Not just like all art, but classical music in specific, because it's an art form that is appealing to a very specific type of audience that is generally older and has more traditional taste, which I disagree with because I think it's a very refined form of art that can appeal to everyone, but somehow it's missing something that can bring it to the modern world. And we were having heated debates because she's a purist and idealist and she thinks classical music is good the way it is. And I disagreed, and I think it has and it needs to evolve, it needs to be modernized, it needs some experimentation, regardless of what this experimentation could mean. So she said, I'll introduce you to one of my close friends who will probably get you. So we invited Francisco and his girlfriend over for dinner, I think sometime in March. And this basically started our, I would say, love story where we started meeting every weekend, spending 4 or 5 hours together talking about it. And very slowly, it's evolved into what you see today. Like, honestly, I can't even remember the day when this project became like that, what you see. It was just ideas. And okay, at one day we had the recording, and then we met this artist, Mankind, and we started working on it. But yeah, I don't want to take too much time.
No, Francisco, Baher already said it. You met in March for dinner.
Yes, we did, yeah.
So we know more or less, the birth hour of at least the idea. But how long did it take to put it into life, that it really became something that we're talking about tonight here, and we will listen to and watch to and create together?
Well, first of all, when I heard about NFTs and the potential of the NFTs, I couldn't really believe that it's true. Right? I was like kind of blown up, and I'm like, this is impossible. This will never work with classical music or with any sort of music. But then, as Baher mentioned before, week after week, we got together, we were chatting, we were learning, insane, like we were sharing our learning process throughout the months. And this is how we came up with an idea, and we were convinced that we will be able to transmit this whole powerful message from the whole NFT technology and blockchain technology behind it into musical. And especially because I have a classical music background, especially to classical music. And where else to do that, if not in the city of classical music in Vienna, right? So
perfect. So here we are discussing about the idea. So what's the basic idea, the overall idea beyond MozartBeats?
Well, that takes me back about 20, 25 years back to my childhood. I would like to start with a story which is kind of emotional, but very true. So I'm a horn player. I was born in a musician's family. My father was a French horn player, and since age 10, I think, I started to play the French horn. Then at age 12, I had my first gig. You know, my father told me, "Oh, you have to come with me. That's going to be great. Your first concert, 12 years old, in Palau de la Música Catalana, one of the most beautiful concert halls in Barcelona. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So I said to I didn't realize back then. I was like, yeah, whatever. So I just went, and my first concert, my first performance ever, was a piece composed by Joseph Haydn, Symphony number 45. Many of you know that. It's called the Abschied Symphony. It's the Goodbye Symphony. And it's pictured on the scene that the whole orchestra performs the whole piece, and then during the last movement, each musician has a candle on their music stand. So each musician plays his solo, and one by one, the musicians stand up, leave the stage, and blow up the candle before they blow off the candle before they leave the stage, right? So funny-wise, the second horn player, which is the score I was performing, I was supposed to be the first one to leave after my solo. So I left, I blew off the candle, and I was like, that's so weird. It's like every concert going to be like that, like blowing up candles and leaving stage, like, and everyone else kept playing, and so on. But the overall message of this symphony was a protest back then from the musicians, which felt they were not treated fairly, financially and from all other aspects. They just felt unfair. So in order to demonstrate this pain or this unfair treatment towards the musicians, Joseph Haydn wrote the Abschied Symphony, the Goodbye Symphony, as a sign of protest from the musicians. So when I got off stage, my father was the second one to go off stage, and he congratulates me and everything. And I kept asking him, like, why did I have to go off stage? Like, what is this? Like, and he told me, well, son, this is a small protest of the musicians 200 years ago or more, and as a sign of a protest, we blow a candle and go up just to receive better treatment as a protest, right? And I asked my father, and why are you still doing it nowadays? We're talking about 200 years ago, right? And he asked me, like, well, my son, once you will grow up, and maybe you will be able to change that yourself. So 2021, here am I, a couple of years later, and what I'm trying to do is give a fair treatment to artists, musicians, and everyone else involved in the artistic landscape.
This is the main motivation beyond that.
Yes.
That's very nice. Thank you very much. Now, we've seen a little bit, while Achilles was explaining to us how this programmable music NFTs are created, and we are now working at the artwork of mankind. These are the MozartBeats design. How can you tell us a little bit who did this? I mean, it's written there, but how would you get in touch with mankind, and what's his name, and how did it all come to life?
So this amazing artwork is by an artist that we got introduced to by Async. So Async, we spoke to them when we were looking for a platform to do our project on. And after, I mean, it took us more than a week to understand Async, by the way. Like, it took us, I think, 2 dinners. Maybe even 3 dinners for us to really understand async and what it could mean for music, and for us to really grasp what can we do with it. And then, okay, we think we're ready to do something on async, so we had a call with one of the async co-founders, and we asked her, do you have any leads, any recommendations for visual artists? So I think she sent us 5 visual artists, and I agreed with Francisco that he would look at them and he would rank his choices, and I would do the same, so that we don't influence each other's. And when we met, we both had Mankind as our first choice, so we didn't really talk to the others. We just asked.
Let's keep it short.
Yeah.
We'll take the first one. That's gonna be good.
I mean, we did speak to another. So we were looking for other artists on other platforms. So we had some some interactions that were not super positive, but with Mankind, it was amazing. We clicked from, like, I think the first call didn't last more than 20 minutes, and immediately after, it's like, this guy's amazing. He gets us, we get him, he's professional. And I mean, once you go through his Instagram, you would see the kind of work he does. It's very meditative, it's very relaxing, but still has a very powerful artistic meaning and image behind it.
So Mankind, sorry, Mankind is actually his artistic name. This guy has a real name. His name is Rhett Dashwood. I believe he's American, British?
Australian.
Australian, well, there you go, right? 4 chances. We have actually a little video with him talking to us and telling us a little bit about MozartBeats and his work.
Hello, Rhett, and thank you so much for taking the time to have this short interview with us. Unfortunately, due to the time zone, you won't be able to be with us at the event. We would have loved to have you, but the next best thing is to have this recording of an interview. The first question is, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Well, I've got 20-year background as a professional digital artist, a branding expert, advertising, filmmaker. So I've had a long background in running, being the creative director of my business for that long in several other studios. And I sort of semi-retired from that when my daughter was born. So I took some time out and I never really went back. I just started doing personal artwork just to, rediscover my love of creativity. And yeah, and that sort of struck a chord with people on Instagram and people liking the work I was doing just for my own personal sake. And that sort of, just went from there. And I just sort of do personal works now.
So I believe this is how you got involved in the NFT space, right?
Yeah, so I've been a crypto native person ever since the start of Bitcoin. So I've been well aware of cryptocurrencies. And so when I discovered NFTs were a new thing or technology that people were playing around with on the Ethereum blockchain, then I knew that this was going to be exactly made for me, because I could then combine my digital artworks with my love of cryptocurrency and the technology that was happening there. And yeah, as soon as I saw that, I pretty much went all in the next day and just started researching for months and months, and I haven't looked back from there.
When was that approximately the first time you released the first NFT work?
I think the first personal artwork I minted for myself was early 2019, but the first NFT that I collected was in mid-2018, I think.
So pretty early.
Yeah, pretty early. Well, compared to, when people see it in the mainstream now, they see it mentioned. Yeah, I was dabbling many years ago.
Now moving on to the current project and the collaboration we have, what excites you about working with us together on MozartBeats?
Well, I was really attracted to working with you guys because it's something unique, working on not only a new technology that people are only just discovering the value of in NFTs, but then also taking to the next level where we are combining layers and uniqueness, and we're playing with that idea of variations, but also scarcity at the same time, where you can have variations of something that is similar, but there is only one unique version of that thing. And whether that is a visual artwork that is layered up in a certain way, or it's the music stems which are layered up to create a unique sound, it's a unique project, and I'm all about innovating and discovering and experimenting in this space. And that's what gets me excited, when people are pushing the boundaries and they're trying to innovate and they're making new things. And to be able to combine that modern thinking with a traditional, approach that we all value and such beautiful music, and taking that traditional into the modern space is a juxtaposition and mixture which was really attractive to me.
I'm sure a lot of the audience are curious about what inspired you and what are the thoughts behind the beautiful visual that you put together, the landscape, the trees, the sky, the monoliths. So if you can tell us more about your thought process, your inspirations, how did it all come together?
Sure. Well, when I started to hear the inspiration or where you were working from with the music, I immediately thought of how I could translate some of the landscapes that I was creating. So I create these digital landscapes, and they're all done in 3D software and in digital software, so they don't actually exist in nature, but they are inspired by creating a traditional approach, a traditional scene, like the orchestra and the music. And I would filter that through the emotive reactions that come from the music, whether it's the surreal colors that I've put into these trees and the forest and the landscape, and the sort of subdued dusk lighting. And then I started with that, creating this digital forest landscape from a much traditional point of view. And then I combined a futuristic modern thinking into it by layering into that forest and onto this island these glass monoliths. And that inspiration came from, I've been playing with that for a while, but some people might be familiar with the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, where the primitive apes and monkeys are sort of gathering around this monolith, and it's symbolic in a similar way as mine is of the unknown and the future, and how we are looking at ourselves and reflecting on how primitive we are, but how in the future, things may look and how we may perceive ourselves in the future. So that's why these glass monoliths in different sizes and numbers combine with your stems of music. The more modern the take on the music, then the more modern the glass monolith layers up in the image to sort of relate to the music. So we have, so if you choose a really traditional layer on the left-hand side for one of the instrument stems, and then on the right-hand side, you have a really totally modern, surreal, really sometimes, you don't know what you're listening to, or you don't know what you're looking at, and it's just a reflection of the future. So it's putting all those together and seeing what comes out at the other end. And sometimes it's often quite beautiful or unexpected. So either way, it's a unique experience and something that has not existed before, which is exciting.
Sounds amazing. And we had the same thoughts independently. We spoke about it before on a call where me and Francisco had the exact same thoughts and ideas, even before we spoke, when we first started seeing the early draft of your work, which really confirms the artistic thoughts and ideas behind your concept. Now, the last question that I have is, how do you see the world of NFTs evolving? You've been in the space now for more than 3 years, and you've been active in it for 2.5 years. So you've seen a lot of evolution, especially in the last 12 months. And so how do you see it evolving over the next 12, 24 months?
Yeah, it's a space that moves so quickly that it does remind me of the early internet days, where people are experimenting and finding out what they can do with this new technology, and then eventually water always finds its level, I feel, and that will find a way that it's very valuable for everyone across all sort of mainstream society. But at the moment, people are still experimenting and trying all different things, which is just wonderful at the moment. But I really think it will touch almost every aspect of everyone's life at some stage. And I feel like the technology of NFTs touching the art world, whether that is music or traditional art or digital art, I think the impact of being able to connect that scarcity and ownership to a digital file, an artwork or music or whatever it is, will have as much of an impact on those industries as the internet had on newspapers. So I think in the future, it will become second nature that we are interacting at some level with an NFT or the blockchain or something that we're just starting to call Web3, really, because it's now the evolution of what we've got used to with a digital web technology, and it will become more seamless. But at the moment, we're all still finding the ways of putting that technology together so it's a little bit more seamless for everyone to use. But the innovators and the newness of the space is proving very valuable to some, and people want to own a piece of that sort of new real estate.
Well, that's what makes it exciting these days, all of this experimentation and really not knowing where any idea, concept, or artwork would go. But yeah, I fully agree with you. And we're really looking forward to see what comes out from you in the future and more from the space. Thank you so much, Red Dashwood, aka Mankind, for your time. And we hope to hear from you soon about more and more work, hopefully together as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, time to get active. We'll wake up a little bit, put some music. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage our 4-string musicians. Woo! All dressed up. They play real instruments, not digital instruments. They play real music, not for now digital music. We're going to produce some. Francisco, could you tell us something about the musicians?
Sure. I would just like to get started with another story. And I'm just a big fan of storytelling. So during a train ride to Prague with Dalibor Karvay, who's the concertmaster of the Vienna Symphony Orchestra and an outstanding violin virtuoso, which I luckily happen to manage. We were on a train ride to Prague, and we were just talking with 5 hours of chatting, and he asked me, so what are you up these days? And I was like, well, we still have 3.5 hours, right? Yeah. So I started the topic NFTs, right? And Dalibor looked at me. He didn't talk for 2.5 hours, and then he told me, I want to get in. Let's do something together. So that, of course, for me, transformed in my mind as a kind of a strategy to enter the conservative classical music world, because I think that if a musician as Dalibor Karvay, which represents such an important Austrian orchestra, such as the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, believes in this technology, believes in NFTs, then, we won. So that's what I did. And then based on that, my principal idea was to just, create our first NFT, which would be recognizable by anyone in this planet. And I'm pretty much sure everyone is familiar with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Eine, kleine Nachtmusik, a little night music. So what we did is we took that piece, we rearranged it, we changed, I don't know how many times we changed, and yeah, we had many different opinions, we got feedback, we changed it again, and so on for many months, and then we came up with the final version, which we recorded in a studio, and now I'm going to explain to you shortly how are the instruments represented in the artwork, in the visual artwork. So this part represents the first violin, this part represents the second violin, that's the third part representing the viola, and the fourth part representing the violoncello. And those are the 4 stems Achilles was talking before. So the stems are represented by 4 instruments of the quartet, and there are 5 variations per stem, meaning each instrument plays 5 variations. That's variation number 0. Just let me get back to variation number 0. It's represented by trees. Why? Because the variation 0 is the original one. When we start doing MozartBeats, I came up with the idea I would like to visualize or illustrate the evolution of classical music, or at least my personal perception of classical music. So this is how I picture. This is the classical piece. It's digitalized. That's why it's not looking really natural, but digital, with all colors and all effects. This is the variation number 1, which is an alternative to the original variation. And there are some small monoliths coming up, but still the trees are dominant, right? Then in the second variation, we have already same height of the trees and same height of the monoliths. Then we have the variation number 3, which are dominantly illustrated by monoliths purely and smaller pieces of trees. And then we have the most modern variation of all, which is strictly represented by big monoliths, by massive monoliths. So what does this represent? This represents the evolution, or my perception of classical music, as I said before, and it's starting with a very classical picture, which are the trees, and evolving into something completely modern and maybe even abstract, which are, in this case, the monoliths.
Can I ask you a question for
Please.
this? So when you go back to variation number 3,
yeah.
we see here 2 monoliths for each instrument. Do I get that right?
There are 2 monoliths per instrument.
Per instruments. And
right.
when you go on variation 4,
yeah.
it's just 1 monolith.
Yes.
Is that correct? Why is
yes.
that?
Because it's a big, massive monolith. Mankind actually explained that in the video. That's the perception what Stanley Kubrick had in the
yes,
2001.
The black monolith where you would hear music of Ligeti in that case.
Exactly. So
yes.
that's the one monolith representing the
Very
future, you know. So.
So when it's at the highest level of variation, the monolith is single.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what allows this when we are creating, we have a string quartet with 4 musicians and we have 5 variations per instrument. These allow us to create 625 unique combinations. So that's, I think it's pretty amazing, right? You can make 625 combinations just by playing out the different variations.
And one combination exists as a single NFT.
Each of them is a single NFT.
Each of them, and can be purchased, and we will
yes.
talk later about it, how. Okay.
Yes. So that's the big amazing thing. And I think enough talk, let's get to live music.
So what are we going to listen right now? Because you may have noticed that the musicians...
Hello. No,
not now. You may have noticed that the musicians have been... Let me show you that, because actually you've done it very discreetly, but we've seen that in the afternoon. So what do you have actually here? You have something in your ear, is that correct? That everybody of you has. What do you hear there? Is it, what, the latest football call? No. No. This.
They're hearing the click.
So that you can play. Okay, very good. And then, as far as I can remember, your instruments are also connected. Is that right? No, you have just the microphone in front of you. So you are going to perform, let's be clear here, not right away the original Eine, kleine, Nachtmusik. We're going to listen to that later. But they are already performing the first NFT,
yes.
as far as I could tell.
Well, now we're going to perform some extracts from the MozartBeats, because we don't want to reveal the whole piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just small samples for everyone to hear the difference of these combinations. And
Wonderful.
keep in mind, each of the 625 combinations just sounds different.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you the most natural one, the first one, the classical one, the original one.
So everybody recognize this. This is Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. First movement, the parts, obviously not the whole part, they interrupted themselves, would continue, but this is Mozart's original.
Yes.
No NFT, no nothing.
So, yes, beautiful played, beautiful performed, but nothing exciting, right? So let's get into the variation number.
Well, it's Mozart.
222. Nothing exciting for the crypto community.
Yeah, okay, for the crypto.
So now what we're going to show is the variation number 222, standing for all instruments. And this variation, I might add, because yesterday on our Twitter space came up, this is called by a technique which was not really common during Mozart's time, which is the pizzicato technique. And so when we rearranged MozartBeats, Eine kleine Nachtmusik, we thought, why not trying pizzicato version? So that was the second variation. Don't get confused. They played the same bars as the first one. It sounded absolutely completely different. Now, let's try something more innovative. Let's just mix the variations. So the first violin will be playing variation number 1. The second violin, the viola, playing the variation number original, the 0-1, and the cello will play the variation number 2. Still without any altered, modified distortions by computer.
Francisco, this is why we're seeing the number 1001. These are the variations they're playing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the stem mixes.
Quick,
Yeah. So please, thank you.
Wonderful. So that we get it right, we have 4 instruments. This is why we have 4 digits. Let's put it that
Exactly.
way. Okay, and the number in the digit is the variation they're playing.
The
So
number
we
of the
have
variations.
First variation, first instrument, which I think is violin.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember, is playing variation 1, then original, and variation 2.
Exactly.
And we have a maximum of 4 variations, and
Exactly.
the total of the possibilities is 625.
Right. That's correct.
Very happy that I got that.
Yeah. So now we are going to try something new. We experimented by making some little experiment. So we substitute our cellist this time. That's the variation number 3 for the cellist. And we substitute him by a Moog synthesizer. It's getting quite trendy nowadays to go vintage a bit with the sounding of the synthesizer sound. So here is how variation 1213 sounds like. So I'm sure that some of you or some conservative minds, with all the respect from my side as a classical musician, might think, what the hell are you guys doing, right? But to be honest to you, we are approaching a new target group. We're approaching millennials, we are approaching the crypto community, and we have to work our instruments, our ways how to approach this new target group. So I'm not saying we're going to sell MozartBeats to average 70 plus classical music listener, because probably he's going to laugh at us and he's like, you're destroying Mozart's piece. So, but this is not what we are doing. Again, we are trying to create something modern and to approach a new target group. So right now, we're going to listen something a bit more crazy, and we're going to substitute the first violin by a variation created by echoing beats, therefore the name MozartBeats. And the violoncello will stay off once more. I'm so sorry, Milan. And it's going to be again substituted by the Moog synthesizer. Please.
To be substituted.
Yeah.
By whom, or in that case, I should say, probably ask by what?
Yes. So we have created variations number 3 and variation number 4 were created by a computer software, adding effects, distortions, echoing beats, splittering effects, glittering. So adding some kind of special effects, which, for my perception, or in my perception, represent a futuristic way how to...
So audio digital effects, what
exactly.
you would put in movie from the visual aspect.
Right.
In this case, you would put it in audio.
So now what we're going to do, and I think I put the wrong slide, but that's the next slide. Yes. Now we're going to do completely crazy, and we're going to do something that everyone is going to stand up and just leave the room. Or maybe you will stay until the end and enjoy the variation 4-4-3-2, done strictly by computer. Lucas, please. So
sounds weird.
Yes. So I hope you could see that this is a variation, a combination, a stem mix made purely by huge monoliths, by massive monoliths. And so the sound is the most futuristic sound you can get within the piece MozartBeats. That doesn't mean that all 625 variations will sound like that, of course, but this is the most futuristic one. And maybe some of us will say, hey, maybe this in 150 years is going to be a groundbreaking moment, and maybe this MozartBeats piece was kind of a milestone within the evolution of classical music. But it's 2021, we are in the capital city of music in Vienna, and we want to keep it for now as it is, beautiful and classic.
Viola four-strings quartet playing original Mozart. The way Wolfgang Amadeus wrote it on a piece of paper and every now and then being replaced by a machine. And the NFT created. That was really, really interesting. I hope you too, ladies and gentlemen, got a little bit of an insight and a better, at least better understanding of what's going on and what we're talking about. But Beher, we've been talking before the show about something, because I saw this and I wanted to ask you what is, and you said, well, it's related to the selling and how. So I was asking you if we have this. Now this is, let me say it correctly right now, a crypto-punk inspired Mozart. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes, I learned something in the last 2 hours. So how can someone achieve this NFTs created? How do we move? We, the customers.
So what you see here is the QR code. It's the same QR code that you have on the flyers. It was not working earlier, but now it's working. Okay. So you can scan or take a photo of this QR code. It leads you to the Async website, which is the platform we were learning about earlier. On Async, you can create an account and you can start playing with MozartBeats. You can see the master records that Achilles was describing earlier. You can see the stems, and you can go and start collecting. So there is gold records, there is platinum, and there's silver. The silver is the most affordable one, and there are, I think, thousands by now, 1,900 something. 2,000, but we sold some. And for every part or for every token that you collect, there are some certain products or physical products that come with it. For the master record, which is the highlight of the piece, what we have here is something that we came up with because we were thinking music still something that you should somehow perceive and feel. And we were thinking, okay, what can we have as a physical product that relates to the music? And we came up with the idea of a vinyl record player.
Wonderful.
So we tried to look for something that looks really elegant, but at the same time...
It's a piece of craft. It's real. You can touch it. It's not digital. And it says on the little plaque, MozartBeats, NFTunes by Mankind, Vienna 2021. I don't know if we can see that maybe on the big screen. So definitely an object that some of you may know and even used. That's wonderful.
And the beauty is that the act of this physical product as part of the NFT is written in the smart contract. So anyone who owns this master records would have this, and if someone else buys it from them, then the owner would have to ship this product to the new buyer.
Wonderful.
But also there are the stems, and like I would say just experiment. I mean, that's how I started. I started just buying and experimenting and seeing how you feel about it. Of course, you need to relate and appreciate the art. And I mean, it's been live now for 24 hours, and I think we've sold, I mean, last time I checked, I think 33 records between silver and gold. And surprisingly, this morning, someone bought the first violin for $32,000.
Wonderful.
And this person is anonymous. We don't know who that person is. He's a collector. I mean, the majority of the crypto artists are anonymous. But honestly, this was a shocking moment. We just couldn't believe it. But you know, that's the power of putting your work out there. Like we heard from Daniel and Yasha, you really don't know who can connect with your work and who can get inspired by it. And honestly, that's part of the surprise. We really did not know what we would get, apart from just having fun and making our mark on something that we believe is historical. And I'm really excited about where this can go and what we're doing next.
And make some money too, why not? I mean, it's a collateral part of it.
Of course, and all of this money would go into more and more of this work. I mean, this is super exciting. You know, like you make money to have fun. And honestly, this for us is more fun than anything. Like we spend all weekends working on this.
Good. Well, maybe important is to say that we are working on 3 other major projects. My personal idea, since I have an orchestra which I manage as well, was to make an NFT for an orchestra. But then I start, calculating the costs, what that would cost, and the whole variations, and the whole days in the recording studio. I was like, okay, in the middle, I said, okay, maybe next year. So I wanted to start with the orchestra to create an NFT with the orchestra, but then we got like a small hint, like just start small, and then slowly grow up. So we have still now 3 projects, as I said, 4 with MozartBeats in the pipeline, cooking right now, and we're super excited to maybe make such an event. If you guys like this event, then we would be happy to get a feedback, what we could do better, maybe shorten up the videos or something, yeah? So we would love to see you all and welcome you all again.
So it's 10 to 9. We started at 6:30. This is almost 2.5 hours. Almost everybody stayed. Thank you very much for your patience. It definitely was worth it. I would like to thank my guests of the second part, our guests of the first part who are still in the audience, our musicians. Ladies and gentlemen, you probably may have get some interested in this NFT world and what are platforms, how can we invest. Don't forget that after the show we are performing right now, there is a get-together right in front where you came in order to talk to our experts and to have more detailed information if you'd like. I know some of you may be some investors or music professionals. I know that some of you are musical professionals, and this may be definitely a groundbreaking event, a groundbreaking technology. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for following us. My name is Marco Di Sappi. It was a wonderful evening. See you soon. Bye-bye.